At its core, one of the biggest challenges we face as humans is just communication. And today, we're going to look at a really cool project called SignBridge. It's using AI to build a brand new kind of bridge between two different worlds.
Okay, I want to start with a number, 70 million. And, this isn't just some abstract statistic. That's a huge number.
That's 70 million. Well, it represents the number of deaf people all over the world. People who face communication barriers every single day. For them, it's not just a small gap, it's a constant, daily challenge in a world that's mostly built for sound.
So let's dig into that a little bit. We call it a 70 million person problem, and it really is. Why is this gap so hard to close, even with the technology we already have? Well, if you look at the solutions that exist right now, you start to see a pattern, right? There are always trade-offs. Human interpreters, they're amazing, the absolute gold standard for getting all the nuance. But they're expensive, and you can't just have one in your pocket 24/7. Texting-based apps, they're just slow. They completely kill the natural flow of a conversation. And pre-recorded videos, forget it. That's not going to work for a real live chat. The bottom line is every solution we have right now has a major flaw.
Okay, so seeing all those challenges, a team of developers started asking a pretty big question. Could AI actually create a better way? And that's what brings us to the project they built. It's called SignBridge, and it's their answer to that question.
So here's the core definition of SignBridge. Now, there are two words here that are absolutely crucial: real-time and bidirectional. This is what makes it a game changer. We're not talking about recording a video and then waiting around for a translation. No, this is about a live, flowing conversation. And it's not a one-way street either. It's designed for a real back and forth, just like you and I would have.
So how does it actually work? Well, it's got two modes. First, you have sign to voice. This is for a deaf or mute person. They can sign right into their device's camera, the AI interprets it, and then a natural-sounding voice actually speaks the translation out loud. Then you have the other way around, voice to text. A hearing person speaks into the microphone, and the AI just instantly transcribes it into big, readable text on the screen. See? It creates a complete communication loop. And this quote really nails the whole point of the project: a live, conversational bridge with zero typing required. That last part, zero typing required, that's everything. The whole goal is to get rid of the keyboard, to get rid of that clunky delay, and just make the tech feel, well, invisible, so that two people can have a real, natural human connection. Okay, so that's what it does. But the how, that's where things get really fascinating. How in the world can an AI watch, listen, and interpret all at the same time, in real time? Let's peek under the hood and see how the magic happens. So the secret sauce here is this dedicated, always-on connection to the AI. Here's a good way to think about it. It's less like sending a text message and waiting for a reply, and more like having an open phone line, just straight to the AI. The video and audio are streaming constantly, so there's none of that start and stop lag you get with normal requests. And that is what makes a truly fluid, live conversation even possible. So let's just trace the path of a single sign, from start to finish. First, the camera on your device captures your hands moving. Instantly, that video is streamed live to the Gemini AI. Then the AI, which has been trained on just tons and tons of sign language video, figures out what you're saying in real time. And finally, boom, a natural voice speaks the English translation out loud. And the craziest part? This whole thing happens in like a second or two. And this is so important to grasp. The AI is basically using two different senses, kind of like a person would. On one hand, the AI is watching. It's interpreting the visual language of signs. On the other hand, it's listening and transcribing the spoken words it hears. It's this ability to do both that really makes it a two-way or bidirectional bridge. But let's be real. Like any new groundbreaking tech, it's not perfect. It's got its challenges. So to really understand where this project is at, we have to take an honest look at some of its current limitations.
Right now, it's definitely still in its early days. For one, it only supports American Sign Language, or ASL. It also needs some help to work at its best. Good lighting, a simple, plain background behind you, and things like signing really fast or even super slow can sometimes throw off the accuracy. There's even a little cold start delay the first time you fire it up. These are the real-world hurdles that the team is working on right now.
And let's talk about one of the biggest technical challenges: lag. We're talking about a delay of anywhere from half a second to maybe 2 seconds between the sign being made and the voice speaking it. Now, that might not sound like a lot, but in a real conversation, a 1 or 2 second pause can feel like an eternity. So you can bet that getting that number down is a massive priority.
But hey, knowing what the problems are is the first step to fixing them, right? So that brings us to the big question. So, where does it go from here? What's next for SignBridge?
And this is where things get really, really exciting. The team has this whole roadmap laid out, and it goes from, practical next step improvements all the way to stuff that sounds like it's straight out of science fiction. Let's take a look at the future they're trying to build.
Okay, so short term, the goals are all about building a stronger foundation. First up, expanding beyond ASL. They want to bring in other major sign languages, British, Indian, Japanese. Then they'll add really useful features, like being able to save your conversation transcripts. And probably the most important thing, building actual mobile apps for iOS and Android so anyone can have this right on their phone.
All right, now let's look a little further down the road into the medium-term goals. This is where the tech gets so much smarter. Imagine if it could read your facial expressions to actually add emotion and tone to the translated voice. How cool would that be? Or what about having a live caption overlay for your Zoom or Google Meet calls? They even want to build an animated avatar that can translate spoken words back into ASL, so you'd have a full visual conversation.
And then there's the long-term vision. This is the stuff that could really change the world. Think about this, integrating SignBridge with smart glasses so you'd have hands-free, on-the-go interpretation just right in front of your eyes. Or an on-device mode that doesn't even need an internet connection. That would be huge for privacy and for using it anywhere. They're even thinking about HIPAA-compliant versions for really sensitive places, like a doctor's office. So all of this, it really just leaves us with one big, powerful question to think about. For hundreds of years, we've had this communication divide, and we've tried to bridge it with human interpreters and, kind of clunky tools. But now, when you look at a project like SignBridge, you really have to wonder, could AI be the thing that finally builds a bridge strong enough to connect every conversation? It feels like the journey is really just getting started.